Good evening, Rowan. It's the 10th of December 2017 and it's just after 10 PM. And obviously, this is my usual Sunday evening video to reassure you I haven't been seducing any priests over the weekend, so you can relax. Nor have I been hanging round the Catholic parish of St Urbans, hoping to bump into any pretend astrophysicists in order to save your skin. And nor have I come out as a lesbian in order to save your gigantic ego. So everything is exactly the same as usual. Nothing ever changes. Anyway, this evening, I thought we could have a chat about a radio interview that you did yesterday in Cornwall, which was broadcast on BBC Radio Cornwall this morning. So you're in Cornwall over the weekend and you did this interview for the radio yesterday, the 9th of December, and it was broadcast this morning. So I'm going to play the clip of the first part of the interview. I'm not going to comment on every single part of it, but there's a couple of comments I want to make, and then of course I've done my video commentary, so to speak, later on in the video. So the first comment I'd like to make is your choice of words, which is very interesting. So here are some words you use supposedly in relation to the European Union and the geopolitical situation worldwide. But I think you might be using them in a more personal sense. So here are some of the words that you've used here. Uncertainty, shaking of the foundations, uncertainty of the future, desperate complications around our relations, we don't know what to expect and what to plan for, and really adrift. So I think that's quite interesting. So I think it's your foundations that are being shaken, which is a good thing because your foundations are completely false, because you think the universe revolves around you and that it's everybody and everything's job to give you what you want and praise and adore you and all that kind of thing. And to just cease to exist if someone doesn't do that. So that's what you think everybody else's job is, and everything else's job, because you do quite literally think that you're God. So this is why your foundations are shaking, because it may be starting to dawn on you that actually you're not in charge of everything and you're not going to get what you want. Now, if your parents had been any good, you'd have learnt that when you were a small child, but obviously they were a complete disaster. So here you are, at the age of 67, just about learning it now. So you won't cease to exist if you don't get what you want. You'll be very surprised that you can, in fact, go on existing, even if the universe doesn't revolve around you. That's assuming you decide to go on existing, rather than popping your cyanide pill when the whole lot comes crashing down on you. So the second comment I'd like to make, you're talking about geopolitics here, and you say, we don't know what patterns of power and advantage will be over the next few years, and we don't know where war strikes next. So I think you're trying to squirm out of the fact that you're involved in a Luciferian globalist world takeover bid, and you're trying to pretend it's just this chaos that's going on everywhere and wars are springing up and economies are crashing and all this kind of thing, and it's all quite random and chaotic, whereas in fact it's been carefully planned for hundreds of years at least, and quite possibly thousands, by the Luciferian globalist dynasties who are trying to take over the whole world and get rid of everybody else. So it's disingenuous of you to be suggesting that it's just chaos, out of chaos, that these things are emerging. However, order out of chaos is one of the kind of mottos of the New World Order, and it's also a Masonic motto as well. So these things do emerge out of chaos, but the point is that the chaos has been generated deliberately. And you are also a person who deliberately generates chaos around you so nobody knows what's going on or who's doing what. There's a lot of skullduggery goes on around you at a personal and a political level. So the third thing I want to say is that you talk about the Cambridge Food Bank, which you apparently have some involvement with, so you say anyway. So you said that the Cambridge Food Bank sometimes has so much food donated that they don't know what to do with it down there. People are very generous and they want to help out. So what we need to think about this then, Rowan, is in relation to taxation, don't we? Because you want everybody taxed to death because you think that's going to make the poor rich. Whereas, in fact, as I've said millions of times, most of the money that's paid in taxes isn't even given to the poor anyway, except the poor in foreign countries in the form of bombs and so on. So what we need to ask ourselves then is if people are so unbelievably generous that the Cambridge Food Bank gets so much food they don't even know what to do with it all, they can't manage it, then do you think it's quite possible that we could manage without taxation and the welfare state, and that through charitable giving people could get the things that they need and people could decide what good causes they wanted to donate their money and excess food to and so on, rather than bombing foreign countries and paying off interest to the globalist bankster cartel? So that's just a thought there in relation to that. You obviously don't see the irony of this, that you're saying people need to be paying a lot of tax, when in fact, when they're free to give, of their own free will, they give so much that there's too much to be, too much more than what's needed. But obviously, not so many people would be donating bombs to be flying off to foreign countries. So that's probably why we need taxation. So I'm just going to have a look now at a couple of these paragraphs that I've got written down here. So you're pretending to be a Christian, again, a Christian believer. Well, you're certainly not a Christian practicer. So you say, for me, of course, as a Christian believer, there is a sense that whatever happens, God doesn't go away. That's that dimension which tells us that beneath and behind everything, that there is a love that holds us, that we are immeasurably worthwhile in the eyes of God, whatever the world tells us. That's central to the good news we share, I think. So it is true that God's love for us is immeasurable, but I think, because you think that you are God, don't you? Or at least I think that you think by stalking me and harassing me and trying to force yourself on me with all this abuse that you've perpetrated against me, that you're in fact emulating God. But you see, God loves in a disinterested way, so he doesn't try and force himself on people. People are free to reject him if they choose to do so. And of course, you've chosen to reject God and sell your soul to Satan and persecute Christians and also the followers of other religions as well. So you've chosen to reject God, even though God's love is freely available to everybody, and he loves everybody unconditionally and in a disinterested way. But we are, of course, free to reject that, whereas you won't be rejected, will you? So you're pretending that you're acting like God by refusing to go away. So what I'm telling you, Rowan, is go away. And if I told God to go away, then God would go away, because God isn't a rapist, unlike you. So anyway, the interviewer asks you a question now, immediately after this, and says, so in spite of the uncertainty around the world, the tectonic plates shifting across the world very much, at the moment. You're still hopeful that there will be a way forward, that peace will prevail, that the Christian message, the Christmas message of peace will prevail. And you say, I can't say when it will prevail. You know, I can't say in 5 years' time it will all be all right. And then we'll have thought of some new problems, some new crises. So problems don't actually exist then, Rowan. We just think of them. Or invent them, so to speak. Well, you invented problems in relation to me, didn't you, to ruin my life and try to ruin my life and try and destroy me. So that's entirely in keeping with your modus operandi, but I'm not sure that everybody else operates in the same way. So we'll have some new problems. We'll have thought of some new problems, some new crises. But meanwhile, there is something deeply worthwhile about human beings. There's something immensely beautiful about human love and human community, and that's all assured by a reality which, as I say, doesn't go away. So yes, I'm hopeful. Look, Rowan, go away and stop being hopeful. You're not getting anything off me. I'm not your mother. I'm not giving you what you want. So zip your trousers up and go away. You're not emulating God. You're acting like a psychopath and a sexual predator, because that's in fact what you are. I don't want anything to do with you, so just get out of my life. Go away. So then the interviewer asks, it's a very good opportunity now at this time of year for people of faith to stand steadfast and actually to say, I'm happy and confident to speak out about my faith. And you say, that's right, I think it's a time of year when people's ears are more open perhaps than they are at other times, simply to hear that God has thought so highly of the human race that he becomes part of our own world, that God treasures what we are, and so we have to treasure what each other is, are, whatever the grammar is. So let me tell you what the grammar is, then, Rowan. So we have to treasure what each other is, because you see, each other is the third person singular. So that's is, not are. What each other is. So do let me know if you'd like any more grammar lessons, won't you? So there was no point putting your aristocratic accent on when you didn't know the correct grammar there. Anyway, finally, in relation to this interview, here's something that you don't say. And the radio presenter said that she'd asked you for a comment about Jerusalem. I suppose this is something to do with Donald Trump saying that the United States is going to move its embassy to Jerusalem, its Israeli embassy. Something to that effect anyway. And you refused to give a comment about that. So she said this, she wanted you to comment on this, but you refused to give a comment. So I'm supposing that the reason that you won't comment on this is because the Balfour Declaration was addressed to your friend Lord Rothschild, who's in charge of the globalist Luciferian world takeover bid, and so you ought to be approving of this, but you simply can't bring yourself to approve of this because it's Donald Trump who did it. And plus, you equated him with these mythological Holocaust deniers only just over a week ago. So I found that quite hilarious. So I'm quite sorry you didn't give a comment, because I would have liked to have said something about that. But anyway, that's my opinion as to why you didn't give a comment on this matter. Because you're so furious with Donald Trump for being President of the United States, because he's a very successful man And how dare he be so successful when you're superior. So that's really quite funny. Anyway, that's the end of my video for today, and obviously I'll be wanting to go to sleep as soon as possible so I can be dreaming about my beloved all night long, and when we're going to be together on our bed of roses, on our silk sheets, having a really good time in each other's arms, keeping warm in this freezing cold weather. I don't know what's happened to global warming. But we shall be keeping each other warm and resisting tyrannous authorities at the same time, so that's quite good. Kill two birds with one stone. And of course your wife will be resisting tyrannous authorities with a hot, sexy Rastafarian boyfriend the moment that you're out of the picture. Her and him and his magnificent acrobatic feat. But in the meantime, don't forget to be alert, because I will be turning up to make a citizen's arrest for terrorism. And I've still got those awkward questions up my sleeve to ask you. Hasta la próxima.
But before that, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, says the UK is adrift as a society as a result of Brexit. But Dr. Williams, who's in Cornwall this weekend to mark the centenary of the birth of the poet Charles Causley, told me he is hopeful that faith can help overcome the uncertainty in the world today. We are now the second Sunday of Advent, moving towards the Nativity, moving towards the hopeful message of Christmas. But for many people at the moment, particularly here in Cornwall, a lot of people are struggling.
It's a time of huge uncertainty for so many people at the moment.
I know what you're thinking, baby, and if I was to tell you, you'd think I was talking in centimetres.
It's a time of huge uncertainty for so many people at the moment, and I think worldwide we're seeing a kind of what feels like a shaking of the foundations.
It's all good, just turn me on, yo, shake that thing, miss, can I shake that thing, yo, Annabella, shake that thing, miss, Donna, yo, Miss Jody, and the one named Rebecca, yo, shake that thing, yo, Joanna, shake that thing, yo, Annabella, shake that thing, miss, can I, yo.
I think worldwide we're seeing a kind of what feels like a shaking of the foundations. We don't know what the pattern.
There's nothing left to try. There's no place left to hide. There's no greater power than the power of goodbye.
We don't know what the patterns of power and advantage will be in the next 10 years. We don't know where war strikes next.
On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
Strikes next. And I think in this country, the sheer uncertainty of the future, the desperate complications around our relations with Europe, the feeling of planning blight that we don't know what to expect and plan for.
This was the charter of our land, and God and people sang this strain.
Nasty sort of person. They gave him time, doors bang, chain gang.
The desperate complications around our relations with Europe, the feeling of planning blight that we don't know what to expect and plan for. my sense is that we really are very adrift at the moment as a nation, as a society.
Ignore it. Ignore it.
My sense is that we really are very adrift at the moment as a nation, as a society. And there are two things which I think really help to anchor us. One is human, and the other is, let's say, not so human.
The devil in a black dress watches over. My guardian angel walks away. Life is short and love is always over in the morning. Black wind, come carry me far away.
And there are two things which I think really help to anchor us. One is human, and the other is, let's say, not so human. The human side of it is the extraordinary outpouring of generosity that there still is at local community level. I'm a bit involved with the food bank in Cambridge, and there are times when we really can't cope with the rate of donations that people come up with, because people really do want.
I would love to live in a society where people were proud of the levels of tax they paid. You know, because I think in a well-run democratic society, a realistic level of taxation would represent that interconnectedness that we live from. Now, I'm not holding my breath. I'm really not holding my breath. But I do feel that
you
sorting
pay tax
out...
as a kind of sharing.
Yeah, tax is a kind of sharing. And the various ways in which we've colluded over the years with less than transparent and less than equitable tax arrangements is a bit shameful. We're waking up to it, bit by bit. I have a bit of an axe to grind in that this has been a major policy priority, thank you, for Christian aid in recent years. And slowly, as I say, we're catching up with an issue which we've allowed to drift because of this assumption, deeply entrenched, that tax is an alien imposition. Somebody out there is taking our money, and thank you, robbing us of our goods, rather than seeing it as just part of the circulation of blood in the body politic.
On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
I'm a bit involved with the food bank in Cambridge, and there are times when we really can't cope with the rate of donations that people come up with, because people really do want to help. At grassroots level, people want to be there for each other. And, well, that really survives, doesn't it? That doesn't go away. That's important. Grassroots level, people want to be there for each other, and, well, that really survives, doesn't it? That doesn't go away. That's important, and it works very much among younger people as well as older ones. That too is encouraging. And then, of course, for me as a Christian believer,
I control all your thoughts and all your moves. I'm in the Illuminati. I'm in the Illuminati. I'm in the Illuminati. I'm in the Illuminati.
And then, of course, for me as a Christian believer, there's the sense that whatever happens, God doesn't go away. That dimension which tells us that beneath and behind everything, there is a love that holds us, that we are immeasurably worthwhile in the eyes of God, whatever the world tells us. That's central to the good.
What did you say? Oh, you're breaking up on me. Sorry, I cannot hear you, I'm kinda busy.
That's central to the good news we share, I think.
So in spite of the uncertainty around the world, the tectonic plates shifting across the world very much at the moment, you're still hopeful that there will be a way forward, that peace will prevail, the Christian message, the Christmas message of peace will prevail.
I can't say when it'll prevail. I can't say that in 5 years' time it'll all be all right, and then we'll have thought of some new problems, some new crises. But meanwhile, there is something deeply worthwhile about human beings. There's something immensely beautiful about human love and human community, and that's all assured by a reality which, as I say, doesn't go away. So yes, there's something immensely beautiful about human love and human community, and that's all assured by a reality which, as I say, doesn't go away. So yes, I'm hopeful.
It's a very good opportunity now at this time of year for people of faith to stand steadfast and actually to say, I'm happy and confident to speak out about my faith.
That's right. I think it's a time of year when people's ears are more open perhaps than they are at other times, simply to hear that God has thought so highly of the human race that he becomes part of our own world, that God treasures what we are, and so we have to treasure what each other are, whatever the grammar is.
God forbid we should ever say anything that sounded like it's not as bad as it looks. Bad as it looks. In a sense, you could say it's worse than it looks, because it's such a monstrous insult to the human spirit as well as the divine creator.
Dr. Williams, thank you very much indeed for speaking with us today, and I better let you go. There'll be children arriving in a second or two. You're going to do lots of poetry reading with them.
Going to do some poetry and some activities with them for the morning. Yes, looking forward very much to that.
There we are, Rowan Williams speaking to me at Launson Library yesterday, and I did hope to question Dr. Williams on the issue of Jerusalem, but he just wouldn't be drawn on that issue, unfortunately.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
Trump, did you get elected here through your man? What is your connection to the Ku Klux Klan? Did you ever molest that little nigga Trudeau?
Late last night when the squire come home inquiring for his lady, some denied and some replied she's gotten with the blackjack Davy. Caribbean queen, sharing the same dream, the moon and the hearts that beating one. No more love on the run.
I like to move it. You like to move it. I like to move it. I like to move it. I like to move it. You like to move it.
Here's Lady Gaga. She's got both hands. She's got both hands. Don't go Alejandro. Hands up, little monsters. I love you, New York.
And late that night when the Lord came home, inquiring of his lady, oh,
There's servants said on every hand, she's gone with the raggle-taggle gypsies, oh.
The footman memorized the number, but the prince still holds both the slippers. A new dream apprentice for a bed sits and Canterbury tales. Canterbury tales. Don't try to change me, you're wasting your time. Now I got something much better in mind. Robert De Niro's waiting, talking Italian.
This is why Catholics have the best sex.
Oh, what care I for my house and my land? What care I for my money? Oh, I'd rather have a kiss from the wild gypsy's lips. I'm away with the raggle-taggle gypsy. I'm away with the raggle-taggle gypsy. I'm away with the raggle-taggle gypsy.